In this video, we're going to talk about how to sell property and casualty insurance. That is P&C. So those of you guys that are unfamiliar with this industry, it's auto, home, renter's insurance, landlord insurance, boat insurance, basically all personal lines. And so we're going to talk about how you can be successful in selling it. We're going to talk about non-negotiables. We're going to talk about how to connect and build good, effective rapport with customers, getting them to want to start this insurance policy with you. We're going to talk about how to create value and how to have an immaculate sales process for that way you can sell as many insurance policies to either grow your agency or to have successful sales if you're a producer. And so regardless, I hope you'll get some value out of this. If you do, you got to do me a huge favor. You got to hit that like button. You've got to subscribe, and you've got to follow me on all my social media platforms. And if you didn't know, I have a course on how you can start and scale and have a successful insurance agency. More details in the caption, and join my social media community where I teach you exactly what to do in the social media world and how to drive referrals to your agency. Without further ado, let's get started. So if this is your first time tuning in, my name is Nick Sakha. I started an insurance agency from scratch in late 2016. Since then, it is now May of 2024. We've been able to scale into a $20 million insurance agency. We've got 20 plus team members. We're operating in Las Vegas. We've got an office in Oregon. We're selling in multiple states. And yeah, I know a thing or two. I've seen producers come in and be successful. I've seen producers come in and not be successful. And so I have invested in hundreds of, over 100,000 in sales trainings, coachings, workshops, conferences, events, like you name it, I've been a part of it. And so I like to think that we've got a good grasp on how you can be successful and how to have a successful sales process as you're selling insurance policies. And so we'll get started with some non-negotiables. These are non-negotiables when selling policies. And the first non-negotiable is you've got to have some energy, right? I got to hop onto this video and I've got to have some energy. I can't be dry, otherwise you guys would click and watch a different video. You'd probably click and fall down the YouTube rabbit hole of watching a hippo eat a zebra or something like that. So you've got to come with some energy. And my rule of thumb is you need to have at least between a 7 and a 10 level energy, right? You can't be below a 7. And the only exception to being lower than being a 7 is that you're just dealing with maybe an elderly customer and maybe they talk a little bit slower like this, and you've got to just slow down your energy a little bit. But most of the time, you need to be operating between an 8 and a 10 level energy. You cannot hop in them phones and be boring and be dry. Like, you've got to be able to transfer energy over the phone. Sales is a game of transferring energy and getting somebody excited about doing business with you, right? So energy, non-negotiable. Tonality, same thing. You got to have a good tonality. You can't be boring and dry and like the Clear Eyes guy, while you're selling insurance policies. So that's number 2. Undivided attention, right? Sometimes producers are on their phone. Maybe they're distracted. They're paying attention to this or that. You need to give your customers undivided attention if you plan on being successful in selling insurance policies. Number 4 is quickness. You need to respect your client's time, right? Be quick when going through the application. Be aware that they're giving you this time. This phone call may last as low as 3 minutes. It may last as high as an hour, but be respectful of their time and actually listen. Nothing is worse than when a customer has to repeat themselves, right? Maybe they already told you that they have 3 kids, and then later in the conversation you forgot and you say the wrong thing that they already told you. Nothing turns a customer off more than them having to repeat themselves or you butchering something that they already told you. And so it just communicates to them that you're not listening. So you need to actually listen. You need to be assumptive, right? You have to assume the quote. You got to assume the bundle. You got to assume the sale. You got to assume that they're going to want to do business with you. Avoid apples to apples. You're not here to give them the same insurance quote that they already have or the policy that they already have, right? So avoid apples to apples and just playing the comparison game. You're going to give them something way better, and that should be your objective. And also be sure to ask them at some point, hey, aside from price, what else is important to you, right? You need to get them to start thinking of the insurance policy for what it actually does and how it helps them versus just what it's going to cost, right? Because most people are wired to just find out what's the price, what's the price, what's the price. And the last and most important non-negotiable is you have got to believe in the product that you are selling. And so if you're going to be selling auto insurance policies and home insurance policies, and you're trying to get your customers to have higher limits because you want to make sure that you're providing value in this conversation, that you're giving the customer something more, you've got to believe in that enough to increase the limits on your policy. It's also, matter of fact, best that you buy from the carrier that you're selling from, so that way you fully believe in it. And will it be more expensive? Most likely, but that is going to mean that you are going to probably sell more policies and earn more money to be able to afford that policy and those higher limits. So it's going to pay more if you believe in your product and what you're doing and what you're selling enough to be able to increase your current policy and your limits and being insured by the company that you represent. And so you've got to believe in the product. If you don't, it's going to be really hard to be successful and selling your company and higher coverages. So now we got the non-negotiables out of the way. Let's talk about connecting with customers, building rapport, in other words. And what I like to say is, and it's from a book that I read a long time ago from John Maxwell on leadership, is many communicate, few connect. A lot of people are talking, but very few people are actually connecting and feeling connected to other people. It's like you see it every day where somebody goes, hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you? I'm hanging in there. And it's like you want to connect with people. And the best way that I can give you advice on how to connect with people is to be genuinely curious and to make a friend. If you're genuinely curious, you're going to ask deeper questions. The customer and the person is going to feel like you care, and they will open more up to you, and you're going to naturally feel connected, right? And so be genuinely curious. Be genuinely curious. It's not just asking questions because you're checking off a box. It's like, no, I care to know you more, especially if you're going to be my customer. And if I'm going to protect you and your family, I want to know you, right? So be genuinely curious. Ask about their line of work. These are ways to be genuinely curious. Ask about their line of work. How did you get into that? I'm curious. How did you get into comedy? How did that come about, right? How did you become a lawyer? How much school did that take? What made you want to do that? When you can ask these deeper questions, you're going to get deeper answers. And so don't stop being surface level with people. It just doesn't work. All right? And it comes off as disingenuous, right? So ask about where they're from, what they loved about it. If you ask me where I'm from, I'm going to tell you San Diego. I've got so many good things to say about San Diego, and it could be a boring place if someone's from. What did you love about living in New Mexico? Why'd you move? Maybe it's not even what they loved about where they came from. It's why did you move to this place, and what do you love about it out here, right? I like to keep things positive, so I'm not going to say, what did you hate about that place, right? What did you hate about your other insurance company? And I'm not even going to ask those questions, right? Ask about their kids. People love talking about their kids. People love talking about what they do, and people love talking about their accomplishments. People love talking about their kids. People love talking about their dogs, right? Talk about their kids. Just ask them, wow, how old are your kids? That's great. That's awesome. What are they into, right? That's an interesting age. 8 years old. Are they in sports? Get to know, just talk about their kids, right? Talk about their favorite sports teams. You get me talking about my San Diego Chargers, now known as the Los Angeles Chargers, you'll get me talking, right? What do they like doing for fun? Why? Find out about what gets them excited and talk about it, right? Find out what gets them to light up. And you might, I like to give you this example. Imagine you have a gun that there's 6 bullets, and you make the first shot, and you ask them about one question, and it doesn't work. They're like, one word answer, like San Diego, what did you love about it? It was nice weather. And they give you a short answer. It's like, well, you got more shots, right? You got more shots, more opportunities to get them to open up. And so be sure to keep asking. Don't don't get discouraged if they're just giving you one-word answers. Like, try to get deeper with these customers. And just remember, as you're building rapport, as you're connecting with customers, you've got to be respectful of their time, one of the non-negotiables, and you've got to keep the conversation flowing. You've got to make sure that they don't ever at any point feel that you're wasting their time. Because if you just ask nothing but rapport building questions and it's like nothing about the application or the quote or the cars that they're driving or the insurance policy, they're gonna get frustrated, and then you can sense when they're about to hang up on you. So you've got to keep the conversation flowing and keep it going. Keep insurance, at the top of your mind as you're connecting with customers and moving the conversation forward. Now is the time where we're going to dive into the most important part of quoting customers on their car insurance or their home insurance. And this is the coverage conversation. Like, this is where policies should and will be sold if you do this the right way, right? If you do what's best for the customer. And so a lot of people, they want to save money, right? Save 15% or more by switching to this company, right? Everyone is conditioned to want to save money. And 9 times out of 10, you are not going to be cheaper. It's just the fact of the matter. You're not going to be cheaper. So you need to create and find reasons to be more expensive. And I hate to tell you this, like, your personality and no matter how much rapport you build isn't going to be enough. You've got to do something that's going to make your policy more valuable than their current insurance policy. And so for those of you guys that are brand new in this industry, you're going to learn more and more about the importance of having the right insurance policy. A lot of you guys didn't think about this before because insurance agents, a lot of them don't do a good enough job of explaining why people need to have the right coverages, right? And there's some serious life consequences by not having the right coverages or by having low coverages or the state minimums. And you don't hear about them a lot, but people that cause accidents, they're getting sued, right? They're getting their wages garnished. They might lose their home. They might lose some of their assets because somebody didn't take the time to educate their client. And it's an uphill battle because a lot of customers just want to hear the price. A lot of customers, they won't give you the time of the day, but you have to create that, and you got to get them to be serious about taking this time to go over their coverages with you together. And so the first thing, as you get to the coverages, you've built all this rapport, you've gotten to the application, now you're at the coverages, you're going to tell the customer, hey, before we dive into the most important part of your insurance policy, I'm curious, I just need to know, what do you know about your current coverages? What do you know about your current insurance? This is the part where you get the customer to open up about what they understand. And a lot of customers don't understand nothing. So they're going to say full coverage, right? And they don't even know what that means. It just means, I'm fully covered. My car's covered and the other person's covered. But they don't realize that there's levels to this stuff, right? There's levels to this game. They need to have the highest level of protection to protect what they've spent their whole entire lives creating. People save all this money. People work their whole lives to own maybe their house, to build up a little bit of a savings account. Their income is their number one asset. That's a lot of people don't talk about that. Their income, their monthly and annual income is the most important asset that people have, and you need to protect that, okay? And so you're going to tell the customers, hey, what I like to do is go line by line so that way you understand exactly what you're getting on this insurance policy. And so you want to get the customer to talk about what they currently have, and then as you go line by line, the most important coverage that you're going to be selling is liability, right? Liability coverage protects them in the event if they cause an accident, okay? So when you ask a customer why they picked those certain coverages, they're really not going to have an answer for it. Like, a lot of times that's what they were sold. It's the lowest coverage because an agent either was trying to save them money, or they folded when the customer was like, just give me the cheapest thing, or even worse, they selected the coverages themselves, and the website online didn't educate them on why they should have higher coverages, and the customer just chose the cheapest one. And so a lot of times a customer's not really going to have an answer to why they picked those certain coverages. And this next section is going to be given a customer like a general rule of thumb on how much coverage they should have as it relates to how much they have in assets. And your assets, like I said, are usually your home, your income, and investments. Some people don't have a home or investments, but they have an income, and they don't want to get 25% of those wages garnished by not having the right coverages. And so this is where you can tell a customer, hey, a general rule of thumb is if you have $400,000 worth of assets, you're going to want at least $400,000 worth of liability coverages. And so that protects that in the event that you cause an accident and somebody gets hurt because of your fault. So it looks like you've got some exposure here. Write that down. It looks like you've got some exposure here. It's safe to say that you've got some exposure here. And as your advisor, I would tell you that most people in your situation would go with $250,000 over $500,000 to make sure that you're protected in that situation if you cause an accident. And then you can tie that down with, does that sound reasonable to you? And most customers, it is going to sound reasonable. Like, I like the way that they worded this. Shout out RPOA. And so, does that sound reasonable to you? Does that sound reasonable to you that you have $400,000 worth of assets and that you ought to have at least $500,000 worth of liability coverage in the event that you cause a bad accident? It does sound reasonable. And so, not every customer is going to necessarily respond the way that you try to lead them to respond, and not every customer is going to be the same. Like, this is still a quoting game and a numbers game as you're selling insurance policies, but I just want to make sure that you're leading with the right things, so that way you can sell the most amount of insurance policies. Now, this is your value proposition. Like, let's just remember what you're doing, what you've signed up for is you're selling people on having better insurance coverages, okay? If they go out on the road and they cause an accident, they will be in a bad situation. The solution is giving them the coverages that can protect what it is they're working hard to protect. So remember, guys, this is your value proposition. You're going to be more expensive 9 times out of 10, and you need reasons to be more expensive. And so the best way to do that is to make sure that you're educating them, that you're giving them the information and the understanding of insurance that nobody else has given them, and just understand that we're likely going to be more expensive. So if you can have a good, solid reason to be more expensive, you're going to be in a better situation. Now let's get into closing, right? So you've handled all non-negotiables. You've built excellent rapport with the customer. You've connected with them. You've created enough value as to why they should switch over to you, why they should get this insurance policy started, and you've created that value. Now, we're going to get into how to close. And really, truthfully, one of the non-negotiables of closing is just being assumptive. That's the easiest way to explain it. And I like to say, start in terms of it's already done and this is what happens next. Like, when I'm closing a customer, it's, hey, it's already done. This is what we need to do next. And I deliver the price and just tell them what's going to happen next. Because if you don't tell them what happens next, they're going to tell you what happens next. And their version of what happens next isn't getting the policy started right now. A customer's version of what happens next is usually, I want to think about it. Let me talk to my spouse. Can you email it to me? It's too expensive. And so you got to tell them what happens next. And the best way to do that is to be assumptive, to ask them who they bank with, right? To ask them for the account number, routing number, right? To ask them which email they want the insurance card sent to, right? And tell them that I'm going to take care of the mortgage, so that way you don't have to worry about that. I'll send them the evidence of insurance. I'll get all your other insurance policies canceled. That way we get everything smoothly switched over here, and you don't have to worry about a thing, right? The truth is, guys, is like nobody wants to spend more time getting more insurance quotes. Like, they've already spent this 20, 30, 40 minutes with you. The last thing they want to do is spend another 30, 40, 50 minutes with another insurance agent to try and save just a few dollars. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, because it does. Some customers will literally leave you over like a few bucks, and they're super price driven. I get that. However, time is the most valuable resource, and a lot of people don't want to spend that time again. And so if you've given them an excellent presentation on why this quote's better, why your company's better, why you are better, why the policy is better, there's no reason for them not to want to do it, right? And so tell them what happens next. Like, it's already done. This is what happens next, right? And so the last part is going to be overcoming objections. And so we'll spend some time going over that. But the 3 typical objections that you're going to find is always price, spouse, and can you send it to me in an email? Like, those are usually the top 3 objections, or I want to think about it, which is also send it to me in an email. And so with price, the best way to overcome the price objection is just knowing and being confident that you set them up with a better policy, they have way more protection, and that it makes sense why we're more expensive because you're getting so much more, right? And so as long as you are confident in what you were able to give to them on this new policy and how you were able to build that, make that friend, price shouldn't matter. Now, I'm not saying it always doesn't matter. You're still, even if you can get your close ratio at 20%, 10%, you'll be massively successful at this. Meaning that 80 to 70% of people are going to tell you, I'm not interested, right? You just need a 20% close ratio and you'll be exceptional at this. So, spouse, most common objection. The best way to overcome the spouse objection is they're the ones that are shopping for this, right? I'm pretty sure your spouse trusted in you to get this insurance quote, right? And that you're going to make the best possible decision for you and your family. And as we have uncovered today, we found some exposures in your policy. And this is too important to put off. I think your spouse is going to be very proud of the policy that we set up for you today. And so, let me just ask you, and you can make it a question, make it a dialogue. You know your spouse best. What do you think that they're going to say? Do you think that they would be happy that we were able to fix some of the exposures that you guys are currently driving around with right now? And the answer would be yes. Like, they're going to say yes, right? And after that, it's just, hey, this is too important to put off, and I want to make sure you guys are properly protected. What I can do, and I totally respect that you want to talk to the spouse. Like, I have to run a lot of decisions through my spouse as well. But I want to make sure you guys are properly protected. And what I can do is actually set the policy up today, and then you and your spouse can review this and make any changes later. But the most important thing is you guys are set up and driving on the roads with the right coverages right now. Okay? It's too important to put off. And then email. Hey, totally understand, totally get it. I'm visual myself. I like to see things in person, right in my face. And so I'll go ahead and email that to you. Are there any specific questions that I can address? So that way I have that for you in the email. And a lot of times it's just, that's not the true objection, right? I want to think about it. Well, you need to find out what they need to think about. It's usually price or spouse, right? And so you want to email it to them and then create some urgency. Again, urgency is their coverages are low and they have some exposures. Like, that's it. When you bring it back to that means that you're focused on the main reason why people have insurance anyways, and that accidents and something crazy can happen at any given moment. And so it's important that we get this set up for you right now. So look, I'll go ahead and email it to you, but if we can get this started today, and if you have any questions, we can make any adjustments tomorrow. But the important thing is that you have that peace of mind while you're on the road. As long as you keep that front, heart, and center of everything that you're doing, you should have no problem leading from the heart as you do this role. So those are the top 3 objections. Of course, you can get a lot more granular with it and a lot more different things to say, but hopefully you have the right mindset as that you're going to need to sell the most policies you can in this new role or existing role. But for the most part, that's literally our sales process. It's making sure that you're following all the non-negotiables, the controllables, right? Making sure you're connecting with the customer, making a friend, being genuinely curious, making sure that you're providing value and giving them something better than what they currently have on their current policy. If you do all those things, you're not going to get all of them. Like, real quick, you can do everything right and still not get the sale. You can't. Like, you can do everything right, and it's just that customer just wasn't buying it, right? But again, it's a numbers game. We're talking like out of 100, you're going to close the majority or a lot more than if you weren't following a strong sales process and doing a bunch of those things that we went over today. So if you got some value, do me a huge favor. You got to like, subscribe, comment your takeaway, comment what works for you guys. Follow me on my social media platforms. Join my social media community. And thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.